In the vast expanses of the Tumbo Nature Reserve, located in the heart of Namibia, the morning began as usual. The sun slowly rose above the horizon, bathing the grass in golden light. A family of elephants, led by a wise matriarch named Nala, moved slowly across the savanna. There were about 20 elephants in the herd, including a small calf named Tumbo, who was barely 2 years old. His large ears flapped like sails, and his trunk curiously explored everything around him. Tumbo was the youngest in the herd, and his energy seemed inexhaustible. He would run around his mother, try to catch up with his older brothers, or stop to sniff a flower or kick a dry branch. Nala, his mother, always kept him in sight, gently guiding him with her trunk if he got too carried away. Today, their path lay toward the Tumbo River, a place where the herd usually rested, drank water, and enjoyed the coolness. By noon, when the sun began to beat down mercilessly, the herd reached the river. The water in the Tumbo flowed slowly, reflecting the blue sky and sparse clouds. The banks were covered with soft clay, and acacia trees grew around them, providing shade. The elephants stepped heavily into the water, raising fountains of spray. Tumbo was delighted. He loved to splash around, spray water on himself, and chase birds that landed at the water's edge. "Be careful, Tumbo," Nala boomed when the baby elephant jumped too eagerly into the water and nearly slipped on the clay bank. But Tumbo, full of enthusiasm, didn't listen. He ran through the shallow water, spraying water with his trunk, his joyful cries echoing across the river. The other elephants drank, splashed themselves with water, or simply stood, enjoying the coolness. For them, it was a moment of peace on a hot day. At one point, Tumbo decided to climb a small hill near the shore to slide into the water. But the clay slope proved treacherous. His little feet slipped, and he slid down with a loud splash, right into a deep pit full of sticky mud. At first, Tumbo thought it was a game. He flailed around trying to get out, but soon realized he was sinking deeper and deeper. The mud sucked him in as if it were alive, and the more he struggled, the worse it got. "Mom," he cried, but his voice was weak, drowned out by the sound of water and the herd's chatter. The baby elephant panicked. His heart was pounding wildly, and his trunk flailed helplessly from side to side. The mud was already up to his belly, and he could feel his strength leaving him. At that moment, he was alone, surrounded only by the sticky trap. The herd didn't immediately notice the trouble. The elephants continued to drink and rest until Nala began to look for Tumbo. Her trunk rose into the air, her ears pricked up, catching sounds. She let out a low rumble, calling to the baby. There was no response. Then Nala trumpeted louder, and the whole herd became alert. "Where is Tumbo?" boomed Tumbo's older brother, a mighty elephant named Kudu. The elephants began to search for him, walking along the shore. Finally, one of his aunts, Lyra, noticed movement in a pit by the water. Tumbo was struggling desperately, his eyes filled with fear. "He's there," trumpeted Lyra, and the herd immediately gathered around. Nala rushed to her son, trying to hook him with her trunk and pull him out. The other elephants joined in, but the mud was too sticky. Kudu tried to stand in the pit to push Tumbo from below, but he almost got stuck himself. The situation was becoming increasingly tense. The elephants trumpeted, their cries carrying far, but all attempts were in vain. The cries of the herd were heard by tourists who were nearby on an excursion. They informed the reserve rangers, and soon a jeep drove up to the river. The elephants, seeing the car, became alert. For them, humans could be either friends or a threat. Nala and the other adult elephants stood around Tumbo, protecting him. Their ears were spread out, their trunks raised. They were ready to defend themselves. The jeep was carrying rangers, experienced conservationists who were used to working with wild animals. Among them was Amina, a senior ranger who knew the habits of elephants and understood their alarm. She stopped the jeep at a safe distance and got out, holding her hands up to show that she was not a threat. "Calm down, we're here to help," she said quietly, even though she knew the elephants wouldn't understand her words. Her voice was soft and soothing, but the elephants wouldn't let the humans near them. Kudu trumpeted and took a step forward, and Amina backed away, realizing that it would take time. The hours passed, and Tumbo's condition worsened. He was exhausted, his movements becoming weaker and weaker. The sun was beating down, and the mud began to dry, becoming even more sticky. The young elephants in the herd began to get nervous. They were hot and tired. Nala, torn between her duty to her son and the safety of the herd, was in despair. After many long hours, Lyra, the second oldest in the herd, quietly trumpeted to Nala. "We have to go, the young ones won't make it, we'll come back for him." It was a painful decision. Nala looked at Tumbo, who was barely moving, and let out a long pained sound. The herd began to slowly walk away, leaving the baby elephant in the pit. Nala looked back until her son's silhouette disappeared behind the trees. Left alone, the Rangers immediately got to work. Amina and her team, 2 men, Joseph and Tariq, began to devise a plan. They tried to approach Tumbo, but he, frightened and exhausted, resisted weakly, trying to wave them away with his trunk. Amina took out a bottle of water and slowly approached, pouring water in front of the baby elephant. Tumbo, sensing the moisture, calmed down a little and began to drink. "Good boy, baby," Amina whispered. "We'll get you out." The Rangers brought shovels and began clearing the mud around Tumbo, trying to create a gentle slope for him to climb out. They worked quickly but carefully, so as not to scare the baby elephant. Joseph suggested using ropes to pull him up, but Amina decided that this could injure the baby. Instead, they continued digging, removing hard clumps of clay. After 2 hours of hard work, the slope was gentle enough. Tumbo, feeling solid ground beneath his feet, gathered his last ounce of strength and staggered out of the pit. He immediately collapsed onto the grass, breathing heavily. The Rangers cheered, but their joy was overshadowed. The herd was nowhere to be seen. To keep Tumbo safe, the Rangers decided to temporarily tie him to a tree with a strong but soft rope so that he would not wander off into the savannah alone. Amina stayed nearby, giving him water and reassuring him. Tumbo struggled at first, but then lay down, exhausted but alive. Meanwhile, the Rangers contacted base and requested assistance in locating the herd. They knew that elephants rarely abandon their young permanently. Sure enough, after a few hours, familiar sounds could be heard in the distance, a low rumbling and stomping. The herd was returning. Nala was the first to run out from behind the trees. Seeing Tumbo, she trumpeted so loudly that the echo spread across the savannah. Hearing his mother, the baby elephant jumped up and rushed toward her, breaking the rope. The Rangers did not intervene. They retreated to the jeep, watching the reunion. Nala hugged Tumbo with her trunk, and the other elephants surrounded them, making joyful sounds. Kudu and Lyra stroked the baby, as if checking that he was okay. The Rangers stood aside, their hearts filled with warmth. Amina wiped the sweat from her forehead and smiled. "This is our job, for moments like this." The herd, satisfied that Tumbo was safe, slowly moved on to new pastures. Tumbo walked alongside Nala, pressing himself against her side, his little ears flapping happily again. This story is about the incredible strength of family ties that bind elephants together, and about human kindness that can overcome barriers between species. It reminds us how important it is to protect nature and help those in need. The Quando Reserve witnessed a miracle where love and care triumphed over fear and despair. Thank you for reading this story. If it touched your heart, please share it and support our work so that we can tell even more stories about animal rescues.